Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man Jay Rich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes. Get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. Let's get it, GMGP. It is Monday, July 15th, 2024. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray G, and y'all know I appreciate each and every eye in the building this morning, each and every ear that's going to listen later. Today is Monday, baby, and training camp starts this week. Jay Rich, give me some air horns, baby. Football is kind of like back, baby. Practice, training camp. We going to talk about it because I know you're ready. I'm ready. Everybody is ready. What's up, Graphic 13? What's going down with you this morning, GMGP fam? Dynasty Rehab. What's good, crew? What's happening with you, fam? Gretchen, my girl, good morning to you. As always, thank you for tapping in. I see Rico Stone in the building. Big Diaz, what's up? Big Diaz up early on the West Coast, 6 a.m. in the damn building. Excited for the show today, but I always hate when we always start off with somber, sad news. And this one is tough because Jacoby Jones passed away this past weekend. Jacoby Jones played for the Baltimore Ravens, the Houston Texans. And Jay, I don't know if you know this, but when he was a rookie coming out of Lane College, man, he used to pop up on the campus of where I was at school at Texas Southern University. So no Jacoby Jones, very, 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 very fun, lively individual. Scored 2 Super Bowls in the 2012 Super Bowl run for the Ravens, one on a kick return, and just an incredible player, 40 years young. So rest in power to Jacoby Jones, his family, and everybody that knew him, man. This was a really, 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 really fun, good dude, and sad to see and hear about that news. But there's a lot of other stuff happening in the news. Jay Rich, bring you up here real quick, man. How you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a good morning to everybody who celebrates. It's training camp is here, which is the main reason why I'm excited because, Ray, I mean, we do this thing. Once the draft is over, we just kind of go round and around and around, and eventually, finally, things start happening. Obviously, we're talking training camp battles today for the rookies because rookie minicamp is open for a lot of teams this week. So lots to discuss in that regard, but I am excited because football is finally back. We got some hard knock stuff. We got receiver dropped.
Yeah.
Lots of great NFL news and topics and various things we can go through, but training camp is the big one, right? This is where value is made and lost by making the right or wrong decisions via trade, via waiver wire, preseason games. And we have had a lot of success highlighting players early in the offseason. So very excited for this. I think that people always get a lot of great information out of it. So we can start with the training camp battles today once we get through the news.
Yeah, Jay, and news-wise, there are some things that have been talked about, discussed, have happened in the NFL space. And one of the bigger pieces of news that broke last night while Scott and I were doing our show, if you have not checked out the Destination Chill from last night, check it out. Destination Chill. We talked some ball last night. Make sure you check that out. But we normally don't get breaking news on that stream, Jay, because of the time that we do it. But then there was a report that Minnesota Vikings star second-year wide receiver Jordan Addison was arrested, suspicion of DUI. I don't know if it was suspicion or confirmed.
Suspicion.
I did not check. I'm trying to keep it politically correct. But Jordan Addison, and this comes just days after his teammate was tragically passed away as a result of a drunk driving accident. Jordan Addison, Jay, what is this? What do you think this is going to do for young Jordan Addison? And I believe he was also in trouble last offseason going into the year. Some stuff driving a little too fast. So him behind a motor vehicle seems to be some poor choices being made right now. What do you think about this situation? Anything that's going to come of this, or is it just kind of it'll go away before the season starts?
I think luckily enough for him, he is probably good enough that it could go away. But I was seeing a report that, who was it? It was Deontay Hardy last year. He had a DUI and it actually was suspended for, I believe, weeks 14 through 16 of the same season. So there is a bit of precedent to where Addison could be suspended, but in terms of play, impact on the field, probably not going to impact him too much. He had a pretty solid rookie season, should be a big part of the Vikings offense, depending, of course, who is at quarterback. So not really concerns for him long term, but yeah, 2 off seasons in a row, 2 speeding tickets.
So
it's not
two
great.
auto,
And
they say he was sleeping in his car parked in the fast lane.
I mean,
man, I
don't know. It's crazy.
I'm really thinking about this, Jay. I can't remember outside of like just driving and being tired as shit, which is not smart to do, like falling asleep at the wheel in the middle of the. Have I ever been that high or tired to do? Like, I've never, like, go home to take a nap. I don't get it. I don't get it. But thank goodness that.
I think the only thing for him is the organization. Do you think they'll come down hard on him after, after what happened? That's my only fear is the organization a little bit, coming down a little hard on him after everything that happened.
That's why I'm asking the question. That's why I'm asking the question.
I don't think so. I think he's good enough that it's not going to be a problem for him. If it was a lesser player, maybe more ramifications, but I think for Addison, his role is fairly solidified.
Because of his talent level, correct? You're just like, he's probably too good for
talent,
them to...
impact in the offense, all that kind of stuff. I think the only thing really is, does this maybe add some targets potentially the other way to a Hawkinson or a Jefferson? I mean, we're not too concerned about that. And then obviously Aaron Jones as well, right? We don't talk about him a lot, but he should have a pretty good season for Minnesota.
All right, Jay. Well, there was some other news, I guess if you want to call it news, that hit the hopper. And I know you were very excited to read and see the Zach Robinson-led Atlanta Falcons are now going to use Kyle Pitts, Jay, as a tight end / wide receiver hybrid for Kyle Pitts. Does this make you more excited?
I mean, not really, because what does that mean? What does that mean to me? Does that mean that he's going to get 140 targets? Does that mean he's going to get 110 targets? Does that mean, what does it mean, Ray? Can he play receiver? I don't know. I mean, I guess so. He's big enough. He has the physical capabilities, but can he read the coverages? I don't know. This doesn't mean anything to me. Does this mean to you, though, that he's going to play in 2 wide receiver sets? I guess so, hopefully. No. But I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean anything to me.
2 receiver sets at the tight end position. He's a damn tight end. He's not a wide receiver, man. He's not. It does nothing.
But this is what people want. This is the report that sends him from tight end. But didn't he?
Wasn't he already splitting out in the slot, playing receiver? Wasn't he already doing these things? He was already doing it. This does nothing for me, Jay.
You're the alignment guy, so this is a question for you, Mr. GQ.
Okay, let's keep it pushing on a fun note as we end here. Are you watching the Receiver Show on Netflix? Have you watched it, Jay? I've got some thoughts. I've got some real thoughts about this. Have you watched it?
I finished it. Yeah, I finished it on I think Saturday. Or I watched it pretty early. As soon as it came out, we had BR that day, so I did that. But after that was over, I was basically just watching the whole thing. You know what's crazy? Just quick aside into Receiver. One, I really enjoyed it. Thought it was great. But I can't believe there was no footage from the Dallas game. 0. Like, that was probably the biggest game outside of the playoff games, like leading up through the season. And of course, I was there. So I wanted to see like their interpretation of it. But I was really shocked there was absolutely no footage of that crazy ending and all that from the Dallas game. Like, that was pretty wild to me. But I think the most intriguing story has got to be Davante Adams.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about was Davante Adams and what you were able to see when there is clear and obvious frustration from a coaching standpoint, a talent standpoint at the quarterback position. And as I'm watching this, man, I'm just thinking, we sit back all the time, Jay, and we're like, and Scott and I discussed this a little bit last night about receivers and opportunity and not caring about the target quality. I was at the Scott Fishbowl draft yesterday, and I'm listening to people talk about Malik Nabers, who, I've talked about him on this channel much longer than the masses and the consensus. But I'm thinking about that situation in New York, like, look at how Adams was with that quarterback carousel and how he was just ready to go. I'm ready to get the hell out of here. This sucks. His team is terrible. The quarterback stinks. It just makes you realize that, those situations that are not good,
they're not
they
good,
just
right?
they make you a little worried. They just make you gotta watch it to feel what I'm putting down. It makes you a little concerned that you look across the NFL this year, Jay, and you look at all these different situations that are very ambiguous from the passer standpoint. The Vikings, what the hell is Darnold and McCarthy going to look like? The Broncos with Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham, what's that going to look like? The Raiders here in 2024, what it Minshew and you look at those situations like, man, I don't know if I want to lean on Davante Adams as my wide receiver one with an 18.8 ADP on Underdog right now. And that's the situation he's walking into. I don't know if you had similar thoughts or feelings, but I don't know how much I want to bank and bet on those type of situations, man.
Yeah, I mean, so we actually talked about Adams, as you recall, right? Just a few shows ago, asking about, is he kind of one of those veterans you would buy, or is he kind of appropriately priced? And he's a player who every year we know can have 1,300 yards and double-digit touchdowns. But, you watch the show after seeing his over-under at 1,000 yards, his touchdowns at 6.5, and you're like, yeah, maybe that's all he's able to do in an offense like this when the target quality is not going to be there. And like, we get on Garrett Wilson for not delivering on his ADP every year, but it's like, okay, well, when your quarterbacks are trash and to the point where you want to leave town, no kidding, it's difficult to put up yards and touchdowns. So yeah, we've expressed our concerns over Nabers because of Daniel Jones, and maybe Daboll can make up for that a little bit. But at the end of the day, if the quarterback's not good, there is a ceiling cap for all of these players. And when you are a player with a quarterback, you pretty much have an unlimited ceiling, but that's not the case for Adams. So watching the show almost confirms the thoughts that we should have this year, and as you said, maybe extends to other players as well, like a Malik Nabers, when you know the target quality is not going to be there. But Ray, the bigger question, is Davante Adams a Raider in 2024? Because the rumors are swirling, and A-Rod said it, I believe it was I don't know if it was TMZ who recorded them at the golf course or who it was, but he said, I'm excited to play with Davante again. And then that's when the rumors started going crazy as well. Could he be a Jet with Mike? This is over the weekend. This is over the weekend or during the week, late in the week. But yeah, Rodgers said, I'm excited. Like, I love Davante. I'm excited to play with him again because, obviously receiver came out and there's all the rumors swirling about him potentially wanting to go out of Las Vegas. So if Davante went to the Jets, let me tell you, that is bad news for Garrett Wilson, but great for Aaron Rodgers. Great for Aaron Rodgers.
All right. TMZ, Jay Rich up and at him early, 15 minutes into the show. Davante Adams will be traded to the New York Jets. Jay, there was a couple of other pieces of news you had in here. I don't know anything about any of this. So
a couple
quickly.
Pieces of news. Okay, Ray. So there was 3 separate finals on Sunday. And what were you doing on Sunday? Did you watch any of them?
When was Sunday? Yesterday? I don't know. I did not watch any of them. I was barbecuing.
Ray, so uncultured.
Get to what happened, man. Get to
Wimbledon final. Alcaraz beat Djokovic. Alcaraz Djokovic, Ray, the highest single ticket price in sporting history, over, I don't know if it was $10,000 US or 10,000 pounds to get in the building for Alcaraz Djokovic. Alcaraz ultimately beat Djokovic in straight sets. Spain beat England at the Euros 2-1, and Argentina, with a late winner in extra time, won Copa America with Lautaro Martinez. For some reason, dude comes off the bench, but he won the Golden Boot and led Copa America in scoring. But that was it. 3 finals. It was a pretty solid day of sports yesterday, all day. Devastated for England. I mean, I wanted England to win. Everyone knows that. I wanted to come on, do the Cole Palmer, but, it is what it is. Spain's sick. I told you about Lamine Yamal. If Barcelona sells him, they are honestly fucking morons. But either way, great weekend of football.
I'm glad you were all in on Copa America. All I saw was bad infrastructure from a ticket system that had people getting trampled out there, which was not.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's the only thing that I saw, Jay. That's the only thing I saw. All right, baby.
That was crazy.
We've got to talk some training camp battles. Training camp this week. Jay Rich, we are back, baby. Finally, some
Thank God.
actionable type news. We've got some stuff happening in the NFL because since the draft, there really hasn't been much of anything, and we're just kind of circling the wagon, grasping at straws, trying to find information. But camp starts this week, and rookies are reporting for a handful of teams. So I thought it'd be a wise exercise to talk through some of those positional battles that we'll be looking for fantasy football purposes as we move forward through the offseason. Some potential gems, some guys that we know are going to be studs, but how studly are they going to be, Jay? So let's start this thing off talking about a player that does not fit either of those categories. We don't believe they'll be studs or studly in any way, but is there a role for this player, especially in a best ball type format? But the Baltimore Ravens drafted one of the receivers that people seem to like quite a bit, Devontae Walker, drafted out of North Carolina. He is on the Baltimore Ravens. We know that this wide receiver core, Jay, is not the best, right? You've got Zay Flowers, and we're all excited about what he can do here in year two. Nelson Aguilar, Rashad Bateman. These are not wide receivers that threaten or put a lot of fear in opposing defenses. Is there any shot that Tez Walker can win a sizable role, at least a wide receiver 3 role coming out of camp for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore? Or is this the type of player that, you know what, really little interest in as we move towards the season, Jay?
I think it's going to be very difficult, and it's not from a talent standpoint, but the fact that they re-upped Rashad Bateman, I'm like, okay, then he's probably going to play whether he deserves to or not. Nelson Aguilar's had a role in that offense for a long time in the slot. Right now, Devontae Walker is listed as the wide receiver 2's backup, so Rashad Bateman's backup. But I think he would definitely thrive in that Nelson Aguilar role, right? If he was in that slot type of role where he just has to screen down the field and run the deep routes, that's what he's good at, and would be great for Lamar Jackson. So I think there is a potential role for him. I just don't know whether they're going to utilize him in that role or they'd rather have Aguilar, Deontay Hardy, who's also there in that slot role where they can do a little bit more in the short and intermediate than Walker, who really just runs the deep routes very well. So I think there's a possibility, but it depends on how they want to utilize him. If he's going to be utilized outside, then he's going to have to wait for a Bateman injury more likely than not, which, to be fair, has definitely happened in the past, so it could happen again. But Walker, I think, will show it in camp, and I think could rise a little bit through the process. Wide receiver 84 right now on KTC. He's a player that we saw a lot of things that we liked, and then there was still the drop issues, a bit of a route running issue for Walker, but I still think he's a
big boy.
Yeah. He's a dude who can go out and make a big play. It's not going to be often, but he could definitely make a big play and make a name for himself. So there could be a time where through camp and all these things that he definitely earns a role. Rookies reported a few days ago, so we should get some Ravens footage this week. Crazy. The Ravens are reporting so much earlier than everyone else. It's kind of shocking. But yeah, Walker is the player I'd be watching for sure, simply because the receiving core is not good. But I still think at the end of the day, the volume isn't really going to be there for this Ravens offense if you're not Zay Flowers.
I like Tez, and I think he does bring in a different element to the offense, stretch the field, a much bigger wide receiver than Zay Flowers, bigger than Nelson Aguilar. But here's the thing. Aguilar is going to have a role. I see Graphic 13 says he's got 31% Tez Walker in underdog. So there you go. You've got a large set of people who think that he can have a role and thrive in that role. And some people like Stanley say, I'm not touching Tez Walker. Really quickly, anything with the backup running back to Derrick Henry, Justice Hill probably slots in as the 2 now. They drafted Rasheen Ali. A lot of people kind of like him. Is there any world in which he's the backup to Derrick Henry as we progress through the season quickly?
I think so, absolutely. We saw what happened with Derrick Henry last year. He was not utilized on third down at all. So if they find a guy that can play on third down successfully, like we saw with Tajay Spears last year, we could see a similar running back rotation. But I still love Henry overall. But Ali, yeah, with Mitchell being hurt, there is possibilities that he could beat out Justice Hill and be that running back too for the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, let's get to one of the big dogs, Jay. This is a battle. We want to know, can this player do it? How are we feeling about young Xavier Worthy heading in to his first training camp with the Kansas City Chiefs? They report tomorrow on the 16th. So we're going to set this up and talk about Xavier Worthy versus Rashee Rice versus Justin Watson versus whoever that Sky Moore and everybody else that they have on the roster. How are we feeling about Xavier Worthy heading into this 24 season now that we're like, here we go, Jay? And I don't know if you've heard anything other, but I still have yet to hear any news about Rashee Rice. Don't know what's going to happen with him. X Worthy, how are you feeling, man?
I am encouraged, right? So there's two sides to this. One, when you look at the history, the wide receiver one for the Kansas City Chiefs has had 100 targets each of the past 2 seasons, regardless of who it was. The wide receiver two has been a little bit less, 80 to 83 for 22 and 21, which Tyreek Hill was there in 21, but only 53 last year. Now, there was a lot of turnover with the wide receiver group. We may see something similar, so it may be the Rashee Rice only show in terms of fantasy, so definitely be aware of that. But I am definitely thinking that when you look at 2022, where the wide receiver one had 101 targets, wide receiver two had 81, that could be kind of what we see with Rashee Rice and whoever the wide receiver two ultimately is for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it probably could be someone like Xavier Worthy, but you do have Hollywood Brown there and then the potential suspension for Rashee Rice. So there's a lot of things in the air. But the biggest problem, Ray, is that Patrick Mahomes does not trust rookie wide receivers. We've seen it time and time again. The first year, it's really just been Rashee Rice, and everyone else has flamed out. I don't know if it's going to be any different for Xavier Worthy. I love the talent, first-round pick, but it just hasn't seemed to matter in Kansas City. Whether you have to earn Mahomes' trust, we know that Kelsey has it, we know that Rashee Rice has it, and potentially, depending on how the offseason goes, Hollywood could be that guy over Worthy, and if you're not in that top 3, you're not getting the ball. So I kind of lean Hollywood, and I think it's a bit of an uphill battle for Xavier Worthy, even though he was a first-round pick. How do you feel about it?
This is one where right after the draft, immediately after the draft, I was like, oh, yeah, like this is the guy that you want in this offense. The skill set is there. The talent is there. The opportunity, the situation. And then they go out, they bring in a Hollywood Brown. They do have Rashee Rice. We know what he did in the most important players, number 87, Travis Kelce. They still have him there. It really hinges for me, Jay, on Rashee Rice's suspension. And I just, while you were talking, I was looking to see if there was any new news. And most outlets are saying they don't know if it's going to happen. If it's not before week 1, there's a chance that it's not until the 25 season. Could be mid-season this year. No clarity on this situation at all.
Yep.
He's going to have an opportunity to make plays. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He will make plays. He will.
Oh, yeah.
There will be big plays, whether that's on special teams, on the offensive side of the ball. I think Worthy's going to have his moments in 2024. Will it be consistent? I'm hesitant on saying that he's going to be a consistent producer, but I definitely think he's going to have moments in 2024. This is a battle where he's going to win, in air quotes, the wide receiver 3 role. I don't think he's going to win the 2 or the 1 out of camp.
Yeah.
I think he's vying for that 3rd role between Tony or Sky Moore, whoever the hell it is. But I do believe he will win that. I do believe that he will be targeted. And if Rashee Rice is suspended prior to the start of the week 1, he's going to be on the field in a role to put up points. So I'm in on Xavier Worthy still, the same way that I was after the draft, but I guess the reasoning behind why is a little bit different. Quickly, for the Kansas City Chiefs camp battle, because we got to talk about all things rookies, Jared Wiley versus Noah Gray. People are still kind of holding and crossing their fingers for Noah Gray to become a thing when and if Travis Kelce retires or takes a step back. But they drafted a very athletic tight end out of TCU, Jared Wiley. Jay, do you think there's any shot that Wiley somehow becomes the tight end 2 behind Kelce? People are drafting Wiley still as the potential heir apparent to Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I get it as a dart throw, but no, Noah Gray's been there for 3 years. He's been pretty successful in his backup role. He's made some big plays for them, knows the offense. I'm not expecting that to change in Kansas City anytime soon. There's so much about the system and having the players on the field to make the plays when they need to make them, and Noah Gray has absolutely shown he can do that. He's not going to be great for fantasy, but if Kelce gets hurt, you never know, right? I think that's the bigger question, Ray. Do you think there's a world where Noah Gray stays in his role if Kelce gets hurt, but you have Jared Wiley fill that Kelce role because he's more athletic? I think that's the situation you're kind of selling yourself on. I don't think that he's going to just take the tight end 2 role from Noah Gray. I think he's great in that role. It's just, do you think Wiley would take over Kelce's role over Gray? And I think that's a situation that could play itself out. That way you're kind of changing less in the offense, and Wiley only has to focus on what Kelce does, not what both of them do, because they do have different roles.
How about this? How about Kelce? Let's just not get hurt, so we don't even have to go down those alternate realities of Noah Gray or Jared Wiley starting at tight end for Kansas City. Now we'll stay inside the AFC West and talk about your boy, Ladarius, and we've got
You
a
know
bet
it.
on old Ladarius. And I just want to ask, do you still feel he leads this team in all statistical categories for the wide receiver position
I
at the
didn't
end
say
of
that.
2024?
That wasn't the bet.
Is he
Stop
going to be
changing
the
the bet.
team's leading receiver, yardage getter, and touchdown scorer, Triple Crown winner for the Chargers in year one? Ladd McConkey, how are we feeling about Ladd and his potential target opportunity in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert as they continue to, I don't know if they're gaslighting us, Jay, but they continue to talk about, hey, we're not just going to run the ball. We're not just going to run the ball. We're going to air this thing out with Ladarius McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Josh Palmer. How you feeling about Ladd?
I feel great about him. The real only target competition right now is Josh Palmer. That's it. That was the bet. Josh Palmer versus Ladd McConkey for yardage on the Chargers. You asked me, could he lead the Triple Crown? I think absolutely, because I would give him the edge, especially in receptions. Now, the touchdowns is where it gets a little tricky for old Ladd McConkey, but
so
if
you
you
still
lead them
think
in
he leads
receptions
this
and
team in
yards,
receptions? You are still
I think receptions, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, listed as the starting slot, right, with Johnson and Palmer. I think both those players are kind of more outside players. Now, we know that Herbert can throw outside, but he also likes to throw to the slot, right? He likes to throw to Keenan Allen. He likes to throw to his slot receivers, so that's been shown well over the years, and I think they will build this chemistry throughout the offseason, and that will be great. But how are you feeling? Because we have a bet, and right now, currently, right, Ladd McConkey has a higher over-under than Josh Palmer by 25 yards. How does that make you feel?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Keenan Allen led the NFL in fantasy points per game for the routes that matter, hitch, out, go, not at the slot, but on the outside. He led scoring outside, not in the slot.
Because he's really good. Because he's good. Are you trying to say that Josh Palmer is going to do what Keenan Allen does?
No, I'm trying to say
not.
that this idea and this notion that all Keenan Allen did was play in the slot is not true. So,
I wasn't trying to say that.
I'm interested to see how this looks. I think Josh Palmer is going to lead them in receiving, and I also don't think Quentin Johnston is dead. Not yet. Not yet.
Oh,
not
my.
yet.
Okay, but what does that really mean?
I don't know what it means.
Are you buying?
That does not mean I'm out here saying go buy him. He's going to turn into a
that's
superstar.
kind of what
That's
you're
what
saying.
it doesn't mean. What I'm saying is he's going to be on the field and he's going to get some opportunity. I'm not telling anybody to go out there and buy QJ. That's not my guy. But I don't think he's going to go to the bench and be relegated to not playing. This is one where I'm curious. Adam in the chat is with you. He's target hog. This year's Puka Nacua. Preach Jay Rich.
I'm not going that far, but I like him. Yeah.
I mean, you and him.
I love Ladd. I love Ladd
on
this year. I
that
think he's gonna be
stock
great.
of being and ride that bitch all the way to the top of the castle because it is hype season over here for Ladarius McConkey.
And he'll be hyped up too. That's the crazy part. Like, if there was a player, and we talked about this even on draft night, if there was a player to get hyped up all offseason, it's Ladd McConkey. If you don't have him now, the price is probably only going to go up no matter what happens. And yes, Tater, his name is Ladarius. So don't question that. Don't look it up. It's Ladarius.
It is not. That's just what we call him. That's the homie, though. We call him Ladarius McConkey. I'm excited for him. It's going to be interesting to see him play a full season because he's never been able to. He was not able to do that at
Question
Georgia.
for you, because I think this is interesting. Would you rather bet in terms of, let's say, a 2-year value on Ladd McConkey or Xavier Worthy to have the higher dynasty value heading into the 2026 offseason, if I got that correctly? They are both currently right around wide receiver 30. Worthy is 29. Ladd is 27.
Yeah, I bet on Worthy. If I had to pick one of those two, I'd bet on Worthy. Just the situation, the team, the quarterback. And I think I think style points are a real thing in fantasy football. How they score their points, how they get there, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say, Ladd gets there off of 10 targets a game. Let's just say that, right?
Yeah.
He gets there off of 10 targets a game, and he's scoring you points off of volume. X Worthy gets there on 6 targets, but they're all down the field, or they look cooler. I think the style points and how players score points influences and impacts how fantasy gamers want, how much they want to invest in
It's the reason why Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't a wide receiver 1 for like 3 seasons, because he did it not ugly, but he didn't do it in style,
wasn't sexy.
right?
It wasn't sexy. It was Keenan Allen-esque. It was
Yeah,
volume
Jarvis
and
Landry,
opportunity.
right?
Yes.
Deontay Johnson, like name a great wide receiver, but they do it slowly and ugly.
Kamani
but
Vidal.
They get it done.
Kamani Vidal in that backfield. You got Gus Edwards, you got J.K. Dobbins. Well, I haven't heard a lot of Vidal talk of late. There was a lot of Vidal talk early, then it kind of fizzled out. Kamani Vidal, is he going to carve out a role in this Harbaugh, Greg Roman led offense? You know they're going to run the ball. You know they're going to run the ball.
Call it Jim Roman. I like that.
No, Greg Roman. You know they're going to run the ball, so they're probably going to cycle through multiple backs. But it's looking like Gus Edwards should be the lead in that offense out the gate. Where you at with Vidal, though, man?
Pretty crazy, right? So Gus Edwards actually has a lower KTC value than Kamani Vidal, but it is right neck and neck. I would probably bet on Vidal, though. I think people like him. I think they like the skill set. There's opportunity there. And, of course, J.K. Dobbins. I mean, why are we drafting that guy at this point? He's basically just a walking injury. But, Ray, I have to ask you, though, because, I mean, the guys ahead of Vidal right now in terms of value, Audric Estime. Okay, maybe you like Vidal better. I would take him in that situation. Jaleel McLaughlin. People like him a lot. Raheem Mostert, obviously, going to have an awesome season. Devin Singletary, the starter for the Giants. Nick Chubb, James Conner. Like, there is some guys ahead of him that maybe you would take, but there's also a lot of guys that we like in terms of running backs. So at RB 45 right now, I think there's definitely room for upside, but I wouldn't say he's overpriced relative to the market because everyone ahead of him, I could see a case to take. So I think he's accurately valued, and I'm not sure how much higher I would take him. But I think that right now, you look at where he's at, it's a good spot, and I think there's definitely upside in this Chargers offense because they are going to run the ball. Absolutely.
Gretchen said, is Lad fast? Yes.
That's very rude, Gretchen. Did you say that because he's white?
Yeah. You know, he is fast. He's very fast.
He ran what,
4.3, high 4.3s, low 4.4s at the combine. AJ said he would take Worthy since Kelsey and Hollywood would be gone. And what else do we have in the chat? Gus season, love Vidal. I'd rather have Connor for this year. Yeah, same. Give me James Conner over freaking Kamani Vidal in 2024. I'm with Tater on that one. Jay, let's pivot to an AFC East team and talk about this home run threat hitting running back rookie going into an offense that all they do is literally slap home runs. That's what they want to do every single play. Miami Dolphins rookie running back Jalen Wright. You've got a running back room of Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. I think they've got Chris Brooks or whatever his name is out there as well. But when you're looking at this Miami backfield, is there a world in which Jalen Wright carves out a meaningful role inside of this offense as a rotational back with Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert? Jalen Wright going into this camp, what is he battling for, Jay? Is he battling for a role, or is this just a strictly third running back? If something were to happen to Mostert, there's no standalone value. Not really interested in Jalen Wright. Where are you at with Wright?
So yeah, you mentioned the other players that he's battling with: Chris Brooks, Jeff Wilson Jr., Savon Ahmed, still presently on the Dolphins roster. But currently Ray listed as the running back 3. And I think the best part about it is we know that both the players ahead of him, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, probably going to get hurt at some point, right? Like, let's just be honest. But the thing that kind of is difficult for me is he going to earn the trust of the coaching staff over a Savon Ahmed, over a Jeff Wilson, who, yeah, they're old and they're not going to play a ton, but they've had success in this role and in this offense. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me. But if he's listed as RB3, you got to have a piece of him because he's going to get on the field. I don't care what Devon Achane says. I don't care what Raheem Mostert says. They could be the healthiest shape of their life. We know they're probably going to miss a game or two at some point this season, right? At which point would pave the way for Jalen Wright to show what he can do. But the reality is it's probably a low upside role without a major injury. And Ray, I think the bigger question for me is, do you think he sees the field at all if neither of these guys gets hurt?
I think he will. I do think they'll play him at spurts because it's another element of juice. It's just another body, right, that you're throwing in there. And you're bringing in that relief pitcher just to go out there and give the Dolphins an inning or two. I do think they will use him. I do think they'll use him early. But again, the consistency is where I have trouble seeing that absent an injury. I mean, they brought Mostert back. He scored 20 freaking touchdowns last year. Achane, we see the game breaker that he is. This is just another, fastball pitcher that you can bring in to give you an inning. I definitely think there'll be a role for him but is he going to take over an RB2 role in that offense? I don't believe that to be the case, absent an injury. They do have a couple of rookie wide receivers that people have some excitement about, Malik Washington and Taj Washington out of USC. Is there any interest in the third wide receiver on the Miami Dolphins? And that's assuming they get through Odell Beckham Jr., who's going to be there, and he'll play on the field, right? Like, regardless of what you think about OBJ, long-term, short-term, he's going to be on the field. But is there any reason to even want a Malik Washington or Taj Washington inside of this offense?
It's honestly so funny you brought up OBJ, because I forget what podcast I was listening to, but they brought up OBJ on the Dolphins, and I was like, holy hell, I forgot he even signed to the Dolphins. But no, there's absolutely no value. It's the same question, Ray, when you talk about the wide receiver 3 in San Francisco. Do you want the wide receiver 3 in San Francisco? Nope. You know it's Jawan Jennings, but you don't care. You're not going to draft him. 38, 51, and 38 targets in the wide receiver 3 slot for the Dolphins and then Niners in 2021, which is the Mike McDaniel offense. 33 for wide receiver 4. It's strictly Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle with over 100 targets. And Ray, I don't know if you knew this, Tyreek Hill had 119 receptions last year and 171 targets the year before. 119 receptions, 170 targets, both 1,700-yard seasons. I believe he had 13 touchdowns last year to 8 the year before that. It's Tyreek Hill, it's Jalen Waddle. The rest of the receivers absolutely do not matter, whether it's Odell Beckham, Malik Washington, Taj Washington, doesn't matter. It really doesn't for fantasy.
You talked about the San Francisco 49ers, so let's just go there. You said that the number 3 is Juwan Jennings. Are you sure about that? Ricky Pearsall was drafted in the first round. Ricky Pearsall has a full leg sleeve and a full arm sleeve. Slick Rick. I mean, there is some swag here. Yeah, I mean, there's some serious swagger right here with Pearsall. Are you sure that this is not the wide receiver 3 in probably the most efficient offense in the NFL with their young star quarterback getting his first full offseason of work? Talk about Ricky Pearsall versus Juwan Jennings, who seemed like the 49ers prioritized to bring him back to fill his role that he customarily plays. Talk about Ricky Pearsall, and let's take it from the standpoint, Jay, that Debo and Ayuk are still there. Both of those guys are there for the 24 season. Not one or the other gets traded. Their full allotment of guys are there. Where are you going to do with Ricky Pearsall if that's the case?
I think with Ricky Pearsall, the story has not changed since draft day. You have to hold him and pray Brandon Ayuk gets traded. Now, to be honest, since the draft, I think that's becoming a more increasing possibility than it has before. But when you look at the offense as a whole, nothing really changes. It's not a big difference overall. You look at the wide receiver 3, 38, as I mentioned, 56, 33 targets. It's a small role. It's a Juwan Jennings role that he plays very well, but it's not going to be great for fantasy. It's the top 2 guys, and it's actually less because you have Christian McCaffrey soaking up 80 targets in a season, right? So it's not just the Dolphins where you have the wide receivers getting all the targets. You have a tight end who's great as well, and the running back getting targets. So Pearsall is still a wait and see for me. I think it's going to take a Brandon Ayuk trade for him to really see the field. I think they get him involved a little bit, but it will be very minimal overall for fantasy.
So you think Juwan Jennings is going to win that wide receiver 3 role coming out of camp over Pearsall?
I do, yeah. I think Pearsall's job will be to learn everyone else's role, right? To be that chess piece, because Debo gets hurt, right? Like that's not, everyone knows Debo gets hurt every now and then, will get banged up. So he'll need to learn that Debo role. He'll need to learn the Ayuk role. And then I think the wide receiver 3 will just kind of stay the wide receiver 3, and his job will be to be the accessory if something happens with one of those top 2 guys, which is great for him, but difficult for fantasy purposes. You just look at that offense. We know what they do well, and I think having a player like Juwan Jennings that knows the system is very important for that offense, and I think he's going to be great in that role. Just for fantasy, it's basically a nothing burger overall.
All right, Jay, we've got some more NFL teams starting rookie camp this week. The Texans, the Seahawks, and the Saints, all their rookies all report either tomorrow or Wednesday, but they have no rookies that we really want to talk about. The Texans, yeah, they've got Cade Stover, but I'm not worried about that. It's going to be Dalton Schultz. The Saints, there are no rookies that we really need to talk about because Derek Carr is starting.
No Rattler?
Spencer Rattler. No Rattler talk in the Seattle Seahawks. We're also going to pass on a rookie talk, but all three of those teams open up their rookie training camps this week. Let's go to the Big Kahuna, Jay. This is the one that continues to have people on edge, tilting and saying some crazy things about what's going to happen in this offense. we know one of the players that are featured in this picture, they are the starting quarterback, no doubt. They were picked number 1 overall. But the Chicago Bears rookies, they report this week, and it starts Rome Odunze. Takeover season is the wide receiver 1
Oh, really?
for Caleb Williams. I'm asking the question, Jay. A lot of people seem to think that Rome Odunze could potentially push DJ Moore and or Keenan Allen, not just off of the field, but damn it, Jay, off of the team. Get rid of him. Odunze's so good, Jay. We don't need Keenan Allen or DJ Moore. Ray, he's going to be the one by the end of the season. This is the battle, Jay. You talked about Worthy and Rice, Ladd McConkey and Palmer. It's Rome Odunze versus 2 All-Pros. 2 All-Pros, one of them potentially a damn Hall of Fame caliber player.
Hall of Famer.
Is Odunze going to kick Keenan Allen off of his old-ass horse back to reality, put him on the bench, Keenan Allen done, Rome Odunze takeover starting this week?
Starting this week, probably not, right? I don't even think Keenan Allen needs to be at practice to keep his job going into the season. He could probably just sit on the bench the whole time. But yeah, I think there's a world where Odunze could push for some targets. He's listed right now as the outside wide receiver on the right.
He was the 9th overall pick, man. Push for some.
Hey, man, what do you want me to say? Like, this is the Chicago Bears offense. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know who's getting the targets. But if we were to guess, it would probably be DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Rome Odunze would be 3rd or 4th, depending on how much they use DeAndre Swift. I think he's going to make plays, though. That's the big thing with Odunze, is that he's a guy that can make a play at any given time, right? He has the abilities. He has the route running. He can go up over someone and catch the ball. And I think at the end of the day, we may see a little bit of rest at times for Keenan Allen, but ultimately, the Bears are not a good team, so they're probably going to be going full force all year long. DJ Moore will be great. Keenan Allen should be more than great. He should be phenomenal for Caleb Williams. I think it all comes down to how good is Caleb Williams and can he support 3 wide receivers? We're going to see a little glimpse of that in year 1, and then hopefully they move on and Rome can be the wide receiver 2 to DJ Moore in 2025. But like Ricky Pearsall, it's a wait and see play for Odunze. I think we see more from Odunze than we see from Pearsall, but ultimately for fantasy, it's going to be difficult to know, 1, what they're going to do and how often they're going to use Rome Odunze. But I would expect it's a decent amount. The question is, will the targets be there, or is he just simply on the field?
Man, I was looking at some of Odunze's route data from college compared to Marvin Harrison, compared to some of the things that work well in the NFL. Odunze on the short routes, man, last year did not run no fantasy points on in-breaking routes. No digs, no in-breaking routes. A lot of his points. Highest point total for Odunze last year. He was scoring close to 5 points per targeted crossing route. Very good on those crossers. Okay. Crazy high fantasy scoring, 4 points per targeted screen route, like one of the highest, higher than Marv, higher than Nabers, but significantly lower on the vertical routes than those 2 receivers. Post routes, non-existent. Corner route, non-existent. No scoring on the hitch route, and significantly lower on the downfield route. So I do believe there are going to be some things that he'll have to learn from a technical standpoint that he wasn't asked to do because of how Washington schemed their offense up. So he's going to have a learning curve in that area, but I think he will be fine. I do not believe that he is going to usurp Keenan Allen or DJ Moore here in year 1, but he's going to show flashes. I think he's going to be a big-time player for the Bears as we move forward. But in 2024, Jay, I do not believe he is going to win out any role over those 2 guys during training camp. That's just my opinion, man.
Do you think he can be fantasy relevant at any point this season?
Yes. Okay. I think it's just going to be...
I think that's the question.
I think it's going to be inconsistent. I definitely think he will have some games where he goes out there and gives you 8 for 140 and a TD, and you're like, whoa.
8 for 140 and a TD?
I mean, you got 18 games. You got 18 games, man. I've seen some bad players put up some good performances, and Odunze is not a bad player. He's going to have some spikes. There will be flashes of potential greatness, but you still have to battle with DeAndre Swift and today Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson, Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore.
There's a lot of players.
And then when Caleb Williams doesn't want to throw the ball, he's going to run around and pick up yards with his legs. So I think there are just a lot of factors that need to be worked through in this offense. But the future is bright for the Bears. I'm excited for Odunze. I'm excited for Caleb Williams. And I do think come 2025, we're having a different conversation, and the conversation that we have going into the 2025 season, Jay, is how good can that combination of Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze be for fantasy football, but not quite right now. Cincinnati Bengals, Jay, that's another team where everybody is talking about their rookies and how they're going to pair in and fit with this offense. And for good reason. You've got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Joe Burrow, and you've got an opening. Tyler Boyd has been Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable. In there is that third wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. And while he was never a difference maker for fantasy, he always felt like the guy that, when in doubt, just take Tyler Boyd. He'll get some targets and he'll have the game or two where he scores multiple touchdowns. Jermaine Burton, Andre Yoshivas,
right?
Trenton Irwin. You got all these random who's names. This is the player that people want to be this wide receiver 3. This is the player that a lot of people think will be the wide receiver 3. But is there a world in which Yoshivas or Trenton Irwin win this third role coming out of camp?
Yeah, so historically for the Bengals, right, anywhere between 76 and 94 targets over the last 3 seasons for the wide receiver 3 behind T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But the big thing for me, Ray, is whether or not Burton will be utilized in the slot. Right now, he is listed as T. Higgins' backup, which I think we all know is not great because T. Higgins will be there. And I don't know if you know this, Ray, today is actually franchise tag deadline day, and all the players have either signed or extended. T. Higgins was the only player who was not extended of the entire class that got tagged. But yeah, so I think it will be Jamar Chase. I think it will be T. Higgins. But right now it is Trenton Irwin. So if you are not looking into Trenton Irwin, you should definitely be considering it, because if he is that slot wide receiver, he could see 70 plus targets in this offense, because it has been a role that's been pretty good. But if Burton wins the job, one, his value will skyrocket. And I think he will do quite well in this offense. So I think that you need to look heavily at this role in particular, because it is a high value role. When you talk about rookies for fantasy football, that wide receiver 3 in Cincy is valuable. And if they consolidate the targets up, we could see, like we saw in 2021, 128 for wide receiver 1, 110 for wide receiver 2, and 94 for wide receiver 3. If we see Jermaine Burton get 90 plus targets, that would be phenomenal of a rookie season for him. But if it's Trenton Irwin and you don't have any shares, you may want to look into that a little bit. Charlie Jones would be the other option as well. I don't think Yoshivas has a chance in hell with T. Higgins coming back. He was more of an if Jamar Chase or T. Higgins are out. I think that Burton, Irwin, and Jones are the 3 guys that could potentially take that role in the slot. Hopefully they don't split it, and that's why we need someone to win that job coming out of camp. And hopefully it's Jermaine Burton.
Jay, this big dog right here. And this isn't a battle, because we know he's the team's wide receiver 1. My question to you is, does he pay off his ADP cost right now? And I'm talking about that dog out of LSU, Malik freaking Nabers, Jay. I mean, he is being drafted very, very high right now. Yep. He's being drafted ahead of players like DJ Moore that we talked about. His underdog ADP, I believe, 25, 26 overall. Malik Nabers coming off of the board. We started this show off talking about Devontae Adams and his disdain of quarterbacks Brian Hoyer, Jimmy Garoppolo, and whoever else the hell the Raiders have. Could we see a similar sort of outburst from Malik Nabers at some point in time, from whether it's Daniel Jones or Drew Lock, who may end up playing? Mr. Young Jeezy, I put on lyric knower of all things. Is Malik Nabers going to pay off his ADP costs? Like, going into this training camp, here's the thing, Jay. Last year, I can't recall who the analyst was, but there was some analyst who was pumping up
it wasn't me.
The Giants to high heaven. I mean, every Daniel Jones passing clip was posted. All I know is whoever the hell that was, I can't be sucked in to that propaganda again in 2024. I will not allow it to happen to me, Jay. I don't know if you got caught by that bug, but are we going to do it again? Are we going to do this again? Because you know they've got some of the best social media shit in the game. It's going to
New
look
York
amazing
does not.
Again, Jay.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask the viewers a question.
Yeah, everyone in the chat's laughing. I'm with you. Never forget, we got to find that guy. There's a lot of laughing. Who was that? Won't get fooled again. Me either. Jorge from Rhode Island. Me either.
Yeah. A great philosopher once said, "Can't get fooled again."
Cannot
But Ray,
get
yeah.
fooled
So
again.
the question for you: over the last 2 seasons, how many targets do you think the wide receiver 1 had for the New York Giants? Just give me a number.
130.
Combined, maybe. No, the answer is 79. Is the most targets a wide receiver has had for the Giants over the last 2 seasons. In 2022, the number 1 wide receiver had 71 and 70 targets for the wide receiver 2, and 79 and 78.
Well, they haven't had a
for
one. That's a trick. They haven't had a wide receiver 1.
The point is, Ray, last year they threw the ball 447 times. The year before that, they threw the ball 400 times. And now you want Malik Nabers to be a 150 target guy in an offense that's probably going to throw the ball, what, 550 maybe? Yeah, he could get target consolidation for sure, but the reality is it's been a relatively low ceiling from a target standpoint. Yes, of course, Malik Nabers is the most talented player they have, but if you're projecting him for more than, I don't know, 130 targets, you're probably mistaken, right? So that's the bigger thing, is that as much as I love Malik Nabers, and I've been saying this for a long time, 1, he has an 875 over-under, which is a lot lower than his ADP indicates, which is not good. And then on top of that, he makes the other players around him much better than they make him. So he will draw coverage, he will see double teams potentially, and it will open things up for some of the other players who have talent, but definitely can't do it on their own. And that's what scares me about Malik Nabers. He could see 120, 130 targets. The quality is probably going to be bad from Daniel Jones, and I think he makes the other players around him much better than they make him, and that's a bit of a problem for him as well. So when they have a limited running game with Singletary, who will be fine and knows the offense under Dable, I think you look at a low ceiling potential for Nabers, especially at cost. So when you talk about Nabers versus cost, I definitely think he's a little expensive,
vibe with me.
Unless something changes.
Vibe with me here then. Let's play the scenario out, Jay. Let's operate on the assumption that he has a Drake London-esque season where he's clearly the number 1 priority for the team. You can see the talent, right? You see the flashes, but he only puts up 800 yards, 700 and something yards. He does not surpass his Vegas total right now.
Yeah.
Coming off of what just happened with London for 2 years, Garrett Wilson, a little bit like Garrett Will. I'm just going to lump those two together.
It won't be like those are 2 different situations.
It's too different. It is different.
You're talking about 50 target difference between those 2 players.
It's a big difference. So let's stick with London. If he has a Drake London-esque season, do you think people are going to sort of just hold on to it and eat it for a couple of years like we did Drake London? Or do you think Dynasty gamers are going to say, man, I don't want to do this shit again. I just did this with Drake London. And let's just say, Jay, that London starts off good, but it's not Puka Nacua. It's not Devontae Adams, to where you're sitting back thinking, man, I waited 3 years for the type of production that I could have just traded for Brandon Ayuk and gotten those points. Like I could have just taken Brandon Ayuk and gotten the same type of points.
Yeah, you could take Deontay Johnson plus a second and probably get the same production. Are people going to
hang in? Because if it fails this year and he doesn't go well, Dayball's probably gone. Daniel Jones is probably gone. They're looking for another quarterback. Like, it may be a similar trajectory that we've seen from Drake London. So just vibe with me in the world. If things go well and he smashes, I mean, he's going to be awesome. Even if they have a new quarterback, they'll be like, look at what he did with Jones. They've upgraded him to Carson Beck or whomever the hell it may be. But if it fails, what happens in Nabers? And are people going to want to ride, that train again and knowing what happened with Drake London?
I think if they change quarterbacks, they will, right? You brought up Garrett Wilson. We know that Zach Wilson is not good. We've always known that, really, since Garrett Wilson got there. And Garrett Wilson was still very valuable. Same case with Drake London. 117 targets, 72 receptions, 866 yards, but only 4 touchdowns in his first season. 2 touchdowns last year. And this is what's held back Drake London probably more than anything from having a higher upside fantasy value. 6 touchdowns in 2 years, not going to get it done. But that's what you should look at when you talk about Malik Nabers. If he's not creating the touchdowns for himself, they're probably not going to come. And that's what's difficult when you talk about him. I think he will hold value because, one, he was a high pick, he plays in a big market, and he will definitely flash, right? Like the flashes will be there. So I think you're looking at a Drake London type of trajectory. But the question for you, Ray, and I think the decision you have to make is there good enough quarterbacks in the next draft class to where you believe Malik Nabers can see an uptick in value once they draft a new quarterback? Because I think we all expect that to happen and want it to happen. But if the quarterback play isn't good enough, then at that point, what are you waiting for, right? Is it 2026? And we know that class doesn't necessarily look to be too good either. Now, things can obviously change, but it isn't like last year where we had 3 quote-unquote top quarterbacks that had been in college, been established, played very, very well. This year is the renaissance where we're not so sure who's going to come out and who's going to be good, and there's still the chance some of those juniors stay for their senior season.
It's going to be interesting, man. I'm looking at the chat right now, Jay, and people are saying that, they're not in the same class. Malik Nabers and Drake London, different classes. I am going to I don't know about that one because it's easy to say that now, but 2 years ago, people were talking about London is the clear-cut top dog in this class, and he didn't even play his full final season at USC because he broke his damn ankle and didn't test. I'm looking at Daniel Jeremiah. He had both of these guys as year one starters. He had London at a 6.4 and Malik Nabers at a 6.86. So relatively close as far as what they were as prospects. Pardon?
I feel like you like Malik more.
Yeah, I think Malik he brings way more a little more to the table.
Prospect.
He's a more explosive. He's a more athletic player. He can do some things that Drake London can't do, but London can also do some things that Nabers can't because of his size. They're two different types of wide receivers. Some people saying that Daniel Jones isn't nearly as bad as Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder, which I agree with, but he's still not very good either. He's not very good, and it's bigger than Daniel Jones. The offense is not good. The offensive line is a problem. I don't care how good your QB is. If you can't keep him upright, if there's not enough time to throw the ball, the offensive line is a problem. The running game is a question mark with Devin Singletary and Eric Gray there right now. And to your point, Jay, I think you make a great point. There aren't a lot of other receivers on this offense that threaten defensive coordinators. You got Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger at tight end. If I am a defensive coordinator, I'm going to send pressure at Daniel Jones. I'm going to man up on the outside. I'm going to say, beat me. I dare you.
You just double Malik Nabers.
You don't even double him, shade him over the top, go too high. Either way, beat me. Nobody else strikes fear in me offensively on this team. I'm going to make Daniel Jones try to beat me. So this is going to be a very interesting situation to watch play out because we do this every year, Jay, where doesn't matter. You start your studs. The opportunity is the only thing that matters until he's getting targeted 12 times a game and 4 of them are catchable. 5 of them are catchable and it's not turning into production. And then people are upset that they're not being able to convert. Then you start to call the player ass. So I'm just being very cautious on that situation going into the season. But let's talk about two teams who kick off their rookie training camps on Wednesday, the Denver Broncos and the Green Bay Packers. The Broncos got 2 rookies that people are very excited about, Troy Franklin and maybe Bo Nix. You also have Audric Estime, Jay, who is getting some steam as Javonte Williams is currently on the bubble. I'm hearing reports he's not a lock to make the team. Crazy stuff, right? Audric Estime, Troy Franklin, Bo Nix, the new triplets in Denver. It's like Elway, Terrell Davis, and freaking Rod Smith, baby. They're running it back. They're running it now. We're going Smith, man. We're going Smith out there, man. The new triplets in Denver. How you feeling about Troy Franklin, Bo Nix, Audric Estime as they enter camp? Franklin versus Marvin Mims Reynolds or Brandon Johnson, Bo Nix versus Stidham, and Estime versus the RBs.
I think the good thing for Troy Franklin, Audric Estime, is that Sean Payton actually has been willing to give rookies chances, right? He definitely prefers them to be a little bit more seasoned, but he's definitely shown as well that he's not afraid to let some of these guys out there. Now, it's interesting because we talk about Marvin Mims and how great he was when he was on the field, but he never saw the field last year. It was all Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. And so I think that's the fear for me right now is, one, what offense are we going to see? Because maybe as well it was Sean Payton just hated Russell Wilson, and we don't really talk about that. And maybe we see like a more spread out, like wide open offense, even though it's Bo Nix at the helm. So I don't hate Franklin as a high upside pick, but I think that he's just a worse Marvin Mims in terms of a deep threat. I still like Josh Reynolds. We've seen what he can do in the NFL. He's a more than capable receiver. And obviously Courtland Sutton is going nowhere. The much more intriguing player is Audric Estime, because if he gets that RB1 role, it's a very good role in terms of volume. And we know that Jaleel McLaughlin will be utilized. We think that Samaje Perine could be cut potentially. And you talk about Javonte Williams apparently on the roster bubble. And so if Estime was to assume a first and second down role, there is definitely some value to be had there. But at the end of the day, Ray, their quarterback is Bo Nix. And we don't call him Bo Picks for no reason. So we'll see what they can do on offense, but I would be much more prioritizing Estime over Franklin. I think that Franklin is pure hopium, but I am one who is willing to buy into that hopium for sure, because I love Troy Franklin.
You love
but the role is going to be limited.
And man, Scribbles is going crazy in the chat. Y'all saying London can't separate, have never watched a second of tape. You know, I am on a quest to just be a better human in 2024, so I'm not going to be rude and nasty. But if anybody like this, he said that is objectively false. If this is directed at me, this is objectively asinine. To talk, first of all, you're talking about USC and you see the helmet right in the background, like literally right there. Everybody knows we've watched plenty of London. No one even used the word separate in the conversation. No one even used the word separate. I don't know. Scribbles, I'll leave that alone. We know London is good. We know London is good. I don't know if you just wanted to argue into the void this morning, but nobody is talking about Drake London's separation at all. Jay, I'm with you. Audric Estime is a player that I've been continuing to draft in Underdog.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact that he plays running back, man. There's a good chance that even if Javonte Williams is on the team, he'll be banged up at some point in time. Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin. The receiving core for Denver is just not where I want to spend a lot of time right now. Not until we know who the quarterback is. I think
is the quarterback good, right?
Well, that is the battle. It's Bo Nix versus Stidham. That's the battle. Does Nix win the job coming out of camp? Well, we're talking about all this
question, Ray, is
shit.
Do we care, right? Do we care who wins the job?
Some people may care. You may care.
Yeah,
if you like
maybe.
Troy Franklin, you may care. That's the battle. Does Nix wins the job out of camp? Yay or nay?
Nix wins it, yes. I'd say almost 100%. Regardless of how he looks, I think he's just going to get the start.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the pick was a reach. We all know it, right? Like, it was always going to happen. And I think that Peyton he's found his guy for better or worse, and he's going to play. I don't see a world where Stidham starts. I think that was kind of a last year thing in the absence of Russ. This year, I think it's all Bo Nix. Like, you don't draft him that high, especially when a lot of people thought he was overdrafted, and the only team that would take him in the top 20 was the Broncos.
Yeah, you're right.
So just seemed like,
you're right.
It may not happen, but I think he's gonna. Yeah, I think he's gonna win the job.
You're right. Yeah, I keep forgetting they drafted him 12th overall, 13th overall,
right behind
like
McCarthy,
that.
Right behind McCarthy.
Yeah, you're probably right. He's going to start coming out of camp. Let's go to the NFC North and talk about a running back who's getting a lot of buzz as well, Jay. Back to USC, man. Back to USC.
Woo.
Let's talk about him. Big Sean Lloyd.
Angry.
Marshawn Lloyd. Got the Apple Watch on, biceps popping, 32. Trying to play that Aaron Jones role from Matt LaFleur with Jordan Love. They upgraded the offensive line this year. They took the big tackle out of Arizona, Jordan Morgan. What do you think about Marshawn Lloyd behind the new running back, new starter, former NFL rushing champ Josh Jacobs? Can't battle between A.J. Dillon. What are we doing here with Big Sean, man?
Yeah, so A.J. Dillon's contract is basically not guaranteed at all. So if he can beat him out, A.J. Dillon's probably cut, which is great for Marshawn Lloyd, because this historically is roughly a 200-touch role in the Green Bay offense. But because of that, Ray, it also makes me look at Josh Jacobs and say, man, if he can assume a slightly larger share of the offense than we've seen in the past from the Packers RB1, he could definitely smash, because it's a role that's been about 190 rush attempts and 56 targets, which is a lot, Right now, obviously, that has been Aaron Jones primarily, but we know that Josh Jacobs is a phenomenal receiver. But regardless, Marshawn Lloyd will definitely have a role if he can win this job. And we talked about, the Bengals wide receiver 3 as a very good role for fantasy. The Packers RB2 is another one that is a very good role for fantasy because it's looking to be
it always
a 150
to
200 touch role. Yeah, well, ever since LaFleur got there, uses 2 backs consistently.
You remember
and
when
I think he
Aaron
continued well
Jones
too.
was the young player out of UTEP
And Jamal Williams.
and Jamal Williams, and both of those guys were usable.
Yeah.
So you are 100% right, Jay.
More 2017 RB class, right? Just that
Let's go.
2017 RB class is infinite. But yeah, Marshawn Lloyd will, if he can win the job, will absolutely have
Does he
a
win
probably
it?
150 touch role. Yeah, I think he does.
You
I think
he
they brought
does?
back Dylan just for the sake of it, in case Lloyd didn't win the role. But I believe he was a 3rd rounder, right? 3rd or maybe he was a 4th rounder. But he was surprisingly drafted higher than I thought he would be potentially. And
Yeah, I think
it's
it was
there's
3rd
a
round.
role. There's a role that can be had in this offense. He's a little more expensive though, Ray. Do you prefer him over Kendre Miller this season? A lot of people like Kendre Miller. I do kind of like him over the backups ahead of him. I'll be honest. I think the role is better.
I am kind of in on Kendre at his. I'm cautiously optimistic with Kendre going into this season. You look at where Alvin Kamara's projected numbers at 625 rushing yards for Kamara. You knew Kendre wasn't all the way healthy last year. Everybody knew that.
Yeah.
He tore his damn
Yeah,
MCL.
going
He
in,
wasn't
yeah.
right. I'm a little more in on Kendre this year. If I had to pick one, it probably would be Kendre Miller. But I do like the chance that Marshawn Lloyd has in Green Bay. All right, Jay. 2 more that wrap up or at least kick off rookies reporting this week. The Washington Commanders and the Jets. Talked about the Jets a little bit at the beginning. Jay Rich breaking some news that Aaron Rodgers is wishing Devontae Adams coming to the Big Apple. And then you also have the Senator, Ben Sinnott, versus Zach Ertz in Washington. With it
Do
just works,
people
man.
actually call him that? Or did you just make that up? Because that's awesome.
The
If we are
Senator,
calling
man.
Ben Sinnott the Senator, that's great.
Yeah,
The
that's
Commanders
his name. It's
led
Ben
by
Sinnott.
the
I
Senator.
said it right the first time. The Senator in Washington versus Zach Ertz. And what do you think about?
Oh my God.
What do you
That's
think
great.
about the Ben Sinnott with Jaden Daniels?
Love it. Love it, especially at cost. Tight end 14 right now, behind Freiermuth, behind Njoku, behind Jake Ferguson, Evan Ingram. Debro was all on Senate. You think he could, have this tremendous
he loves
value?
He loves the Senator. He loves him. I talked to Debro yesterday. I mean,
Did you?
Let me tell you about Debro. There wasn't a player on the board that Debro didn't like. There
Never is.
There wasn't a player on the board. There's one player that he doesn't like. There's just one player that he just can't stand. But yeah, he was pumping up that Senator at the fishbowl, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he's a guy that could jump in value, but there is a lot of talented players ahead of him as well, right? The tight end position is definitely getting a lot better, and there's definitely worse options behind him. But I do like Senate. I think this offense is going to surprise people because Jaden Daniels is a competent, capable wide receiver or quarterback, but more importantly, his OC likes to throw the ball. And while he falls apart in the second half, I still believe that Senate can have a role. And most importantly, every single opportunity Zach Ertz has had, he's paved the way for the next tight end. And that starts all the way with Dallas Goedert, moves into Trey McBride, and now hopefully Ben Sinnott. Ertz is just the trailblazer for these young, talented tight ends to take over that role.
We got to get Debro back on, man. We need to do a show, Debro's faves. Just his favorite players. We'll carve out 8 hours of.
We need his fades just to see how many he can come up with.
We need his favorites. It'll take 8 hours, but we will stream. It'll be a marathon. We're gonna get Debro in the. We're gonna get Debro in the damn building. Jay, wrap it up talking about Malachi Corley, man. Any hope for this? Is a player that I like, Corley, but Jay, I just.
Nepotism is crazy in New York.
I've got a feeling that Rodgers is going to get out there. He's going to be throwing to Wilson, Mike Williams, Alan Lazard, everybody but Malachi Corley. He'll run one wrong route, and then Rodgers is going to let him have it. Let him have it and punish him and not throw him the ball again. But no, really, where you at with Malachi Corley this year? I guess it's just a situation where I want Garrett Wilson. I want Brees Hall. I really don't want.
Look
There,
at D-Bro
D-Bro's in the chat. He
Let's
heard
go.
his name. He heard his
D-Bro,
name.
you got to scroll back a little bit. We were talking about you.
But where are you at with Corley, man?
Virtually out, honestly. I don't think there's much opportunity for him unless Aaron Rodgers leaves. People got to understand Allen Lazard. For everything you think he's not, in my opinion, he's one of the best big slots in the NFL. Yeah, of course, there's more talented wide receivers, but as a blocker, as a pass catcher, as a safety net for Aaron Rodgers in the slot, I think that Allen Lazard will play his role. He's not going to have this great fantasy role, but he will be on the field. I think Corley is basically a gadget type of player. He'll have a few plays for him, but without an injury, he's probably not going to see the field a whole lot. But I bet you, Ray, it is an Elijah Moore type situation, because we know that Jets social media team, they go to work in the offseason. So I'm sure we'll see lots of Malachi Corley highlights and clips, and he'll look great because he is huge. After standing next to him in person, he is a big man.
Put together.
He will run someone over in practice or break someone's ankles and look good.
Put together.
But probably not a whole lot for fantasy in year one.
Yeah, D-Bro, we were talking about the Senator. We need to get you on, do your favorites, your favorite players heading into the season. Jay Rich said your fades. I said your faves, man. We need to do your faves. We'll carve out 13 hours to get through it all. Jay, we went through all the rookies who are reporting to camp this week. There's still a whole subset of folks that are showing up
next week,
the following week, but I will be out. I'll be out on vacation starting Wednesday. So I will be gone from Wednesday until next Tuesday. Last little trip before the grind of the season starts. Jay Rich, you may be doing this show Monday without me. We'll see how it goes. But we have literally saved probably the biggest piece of news for the end, Jay, because are you not excited? I am very excited, Jay Rich, because it's finally here. College football 25 drops today, Jay. 2014, I just finished. I was wrapping up my LLM, had my second law degree, and was excited for NCAA 15 that never came out. Jay, it's been a long time for old GQ. I was a young 27-year-old the last time I was playing some NCAA on the year that the thing came out. But here we are. I'll have the game on PS5 and Xbox, Jay Rich. So we're going to be getting it in on
Hopefully
college
you
football
got a
25.
discount. Jesus.
You ready? You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Are y'all out there ready?
I'm ready. I don't think anybody should be expecting a text back for the next couple days. Maybe you, Ray, but everyone else, they can take a hike. Because that's what I'll be doing. I'll be playing NCAA. I'll be playing Ultimate Team. I'll be probably doing a little bit of the Dynasty stuff. It's going to be fun, man. I've been waiting for this for a while. 3 years since they announced it, which is crazy. I'm sure people have been watching the gameplay.
Yeah,
it's been wild. It should be fun, but I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I'm excited. Someone said, "Who's y'all's rebuilds?" I'm probably gonna roll with SMU. They got dope white jerseys that say Dallas on the front, so I'm probably gonna take SMU and cheat a little bit, get a team that isn't completely dog shit, but it's probably gonna be SMU, and I'll probably only play the game like 5 times. But I'm in the building, baby. I'm in the building. Jay Rich. Good show, man. Anything you want to say to people before we get out of here today, my friend?
Nah, everyone have a good week. If you got NCAA, 4 o'clock Eastern time, that's your time to shine. Book the afternoon off. Tell the wife, whoever, that you need your time because it's time to play, baby. It's been 3 years. Well, it's been 11 years, but 3 years we've been waiting for it, and it's finally here. I will be probably rebuilding my Florida Gators, making them great again. But I'm excited, man. I just enjoy the week, have fun. Especially, do not overreact to training camp videos, man.
We're not gonna. We're at the end of the show, Jay Rich.
I didn't even ask you because you know me. We would have went there. We would have went there if it was my show, but it's your show. I didn't even ask you.
We're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it all football today, baby. As Gretchen said,
we're gonna shut up and dribble.
Hit that like button. Hit that thumbs up. Like the content, check out Destination Dynasty. Scott Connor dropped this morning. We got content this week. Jay Rich is going to have y'all held down next Monday. And Jay, when we get back, like August, we're 3-4 days a week? 3 days a week, 4 days a week? Yes,
sir.
It's coming, my friend.
We're coming back.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming.
It'll be
it's
good.
coming, baby. That's it. Y'all have a fantastic...
That was one too many. That was one too many.
Y'all have, man, let me get out of here. Where's the button to get out of here? Y'all have a great freaking Monday. We love y'all. Enjoy. We out, man. Peace.